Planet Dolan.
From being caught dry-humping a cardboard cutout to being tricked into wearing a sexy maid costume, the Planet Dolan crew reenact some of the best true stories from our subreddit about the most embarrassing things that happen to us at work. I'm Soup, and today, I'll be your narrator. Number 10 was submitted by PlutoCat666. Pecan worked as a maid for a couple who had a son. One day, while she was tending to the garden, the son came out and asked Pecan to come inside for a second. She followed him inside, where he told her to put on a maid costume, which she happily did. After putting it on, the son attached a cattail and then put cat ears on her head. He then told her to wear it for the entire shift. Pecan obeyed, but as soon as his parents came home, they got mad at him for making her wear it. They made him admit to her that it was meant to be a kinky outfit and not a uniform. Pecan was embarrassed and immediately changed back into her regular clothes before going home. Number 9 was submitted by Lilgwen. Hellbent used to work as a security guard at the strip mall. Most of the time, he would just sit in his car and do nothing except to patrol every hour. The only problem was that there was no bathroom on site. All the stores were closed by the time he arrived for work, and none of them opened before he left. It was also against the rules for Hellbent to leave the area during his shift, which was grounds for immediate termination. One night, he got fast food to eat before his shift. Everything went fine, but a few hours later, Hellbent got a nasty case of food poisoning. He tried his best to hold in the diarrhea, but couldn't. It got to the point where he was so desperate that he looked around in his car for something to go in. All he found was a plastic bag. Needless to say, the attempt at going in his bag failed. He missed most of the bag and shit went everywhere. The seat, the steering wheel, everywhere. Hellbent spent a good chunk of the rest of his shift cleaning it up. He couldn't get all of it off of his seat, so he ended up having to sit on it. He also had to throw away his pants and spend his day off scrubbing out the inside of the car. Ugh. Number 8 was submitted by Honeykeeper82. Spincess once worked as a supervisor at a fast food restaurant. One night, she had to stay late because she needed to write reports on her 4 employees. When she was finished, Spincess went to lock up the stockroom, where she heard horrible moaning. She opened the door and found her boss screwing a man from HR. Her boss told her to forget what she saw and not to come in for the next 2 days. So Spincess closed the door and walked away. Afterwards, there was extreme awkwardness between her and her boss. Number 7 was submitted by HatrdOnLife. Sid had a job where he fixed computers. It started very early in the morning, so he normally just ate breakfast at work. While eating one morning, he was in the middle of fixing a computer that had a virus in it when he accidentally dropped his food on the floor. That was around the time one of his co-workers went up to his desk to ask him for help. Sid was about to pick up his breakfast when he slipped on his food and fell into his co-worker's crotch, making him yelp in pain. Sid was so embarrassed that his face turned red. Everybody laughed, which made his co-worker's face red too. He was mad at Sid for embarrassing him in front of everyone and never forgave him for it. Number 6 was submitted by SkyBlue554. One time, towards the end of the day, one of Paprika's co-workers came in drunk. He shambled towards his office, but a few minutes later he ran out singing, "I am a gummy bear," with his pants and underwear down. He ran around the whole office singing loud as hell. Some people were even recording it, while others just laughed. Just then, the coworker jumped on Paprika's desk and twerked in her face. Embarrassed, she punched him. Security came shortly after to subdue him, and he was promptly fired. 2 years later, Paprika quit and got a job in another office. Number 5 was submitted by JustNarcissist001. One of the most embarrassing times James Shark ever had at work was when he worked for a small music shop. They had just gotten a new shipment of CDs along with the posters and paraphernalia that comes with them. It was James Shark's job to set up all the life-size cardboard cutouts of the singers and artists. So far, there was nothing out of the ordinary until he found a cardboard cutout of one of his favorite female singers. Instead of setting it up like he should have, James Shark took it to the back room. After a while, his manager and 2 co-workers began to wonder what happened to him. When they went into the back room, they found James Shark dry-humping a cardboard cutout. Suffice it to say, he ended up ruining it. After the incident, James Shark was fired. Number 3 was submitted by decorafeminae. Back when Ramona worked at a store in a mall, she decided to show some of her co-workers how to twerk. It wasn't unusual for them to goof around whenever it was slow. So while she was twerking, a couple walked by the window heading towards the store's entrance. Ramona and her co-workers realized that the couple saw them twerking and immediately stopped. As soon as the couple walked into the store, the man shouted, "Nice moves!" While her co-workers laughed hysterically, Ramona just stood there, frozen in embarrassment. Number 2 was submitted by ToyShadowBonBon. The most embarrassing thing that happened to Nixium at work was on April Fool's Day. Everyone was pulling pranks on each other, and Nixium was trying to avoid it, but failed. A man came up to him and told him to look the other way. Being gullible, Nixium did what he was told, and the man pulled down his pants and underwear. Nixium was humiliated and nobody ever forgot about it. Even though he no longer works there, that day still haunts him. Number 1 was submitted by Alex20099. Spinal Palm's friend got him a job at a restaurant one time. On his first day, Spinal Palm woke up very early and drove to his friend's house to pick him up for work. His friend ran out of the house, reeking of marijuana. Once his friend climbed into the car, he proceeded to roll a joint. Halfway to the restaurant, his friend began to smoke it. Sadly, Spinal Palm's car only had one working window, and even though he rolled it down all the way, it didn't work in getting the smell of pot out of his car. Needless to say, his new boss wasn't happy when he got to work, and chewed him out for smelling like pot. His friend just stood to the side and said nothing. Spinal Palm quit the next day. Huge thanks to the folks over on our Planet Dolan subreddit for submitting their stories. We have another question for you. What is the funniest thing you've ever seen a coworker do? Let us know in the Reddit page linked below and you might be featured in a future countdown.